This is Senate Appropriations, and we're taking up two bills. The first is H121, which is a Privacy Act bill. And I think that the appropriation, there may have been an underlying one or something, but right now it doesn't carry appropriation. That's the reason it came here. So do you just wanted to confirm that and just sort of a brief summary, and then we could move the bill out. And our clerk is already starting to clerk. So
Great.
we'll see how quickly we can do this.
Yes, this is going to be, a sort of massive policy bill as it comes to the floor. It creates new categories of those who collect and manage data of consumers, and regulates that. There's been major questions that are still being discussed in the relevant policy committees about the extent to which this opens up businesses to litigation and what is needed to give people comfort with a very new area of law that will impact you as a business if you have 25,000 or more customers, or you process data as 50% or more of your gross revenue. Why I wanted to come forward in maybe more than 30 seconds is because the House left education for businesses out of the consideration for an appropriation. I'm not asking you for an appropriation now, but we moved the private right of action and the exposure to litigation out a couple of years and asked for a report back on how to do it well. And next year, I'd like
The bill didn't go to judiciary because the parts that would be in there just.
I don't know why it didn't go to judiciary.
That's
I guess
right.
just because
It got stripped
we're
out.
just a minor committee.
Well, maybe it got stripped out.
It's in health and welfare right now. So
It's not in, I mean,
Right.
we're looking at the.
Well, I never got
second
told there was a private right of action in here.
That got stripped out.
if I took the private right of action out and
no.
harmonized it with the data brokers.
Can I make a suggestion here?
Yes.
So I understand, we've been talking about PRA with John Gray. And we do have questions about it, but I think it would be helpful for you to, I'm moving in the direction of saying, why don't we analyze it? I didn't realize you were thinking that same way.
That study's in there. Yeah.
The study's in there.
It has no financial
We've got
impact
a
with
ways to
ADS.
go in the committee, but I think it would be really good to have judiciary.
We can find some time, we will.
But
I wasn't aware
That's
that it
awesome,
was
you
in
want
there.
to spend time with that, it's great.
I mean, I'm a little picky about this today, so.
All right.
Once again, judiciary stuff's in the bill and we don't get, no.
Well, let's be clear on it. What is in the bill now? It sounds like, what would have been really of concern and where Senator Sears has got experience, got stripped.
I'd be happy to have a look at it,
Is that
but
out?
it is out.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
There's no, yes.
There's no private right of action, and I harmonized it with what exists in existing data for language that we've had for about a decade on the books, which essentially gives the Attorney General sole enforcement authority. Now, I will say when the bill came to us, the House had put in a general opt-out database that the Secretary of State's office was supposed to manage, where you put all your sensitive information into a government portal to hold, and then data brokers had to look at it and take you off. And the Secretary of State's office came in and said that would cost $8 million alone. So in many ways, the private right of action, a lot of the details, they're very expensive. They would be expensive to all of us. That's one of the reasons we took that out and harmonized it with the data broker section. And as the House particularly, but many look to wanting to be one of the first states to do a private right of action, it's just important to us as economic development that next year we try to appropriate $50,000 to $100,000 for our small business organizations to do education before any new exposures come up for people besides the Attorney General's enforcement. The House never put money in, they just said the Attorney General would do the education. That's guidance issuance, but in other states where they've instituted a strong data privacy law, businesses have spent, anywhere from $5,000 to millions of dollars to comply. And so we want to try and find a way next year to help bring that education to more small businesses in Vermont before any new exposure.
So this bill, private right of action is how,
Mhm.
we're only getting it because there was some underlying appropriation.
Yes.
It does not exist anymore.
Mhm.
And any other,
Anything else that carried an appropriation, we also took out because it was way too much.
so what does the bill do then? Without money and without private right of action, what's left?
It mirrors a lot of other states' best of their data privacy laws. So it mimics, for example, the California Delete Act. You have to be able to ask to delete your information from a site. Controllers and processors of data have to follow a certain set of guidelines. But if they're not doing that, the AG has sole enforcement authority to address that. And that alone was a policy choice. So again, judiciary could take a look at that. But what the bill does as well to answer the House's desire to have a massive private right of action is give the Agency of Digital Services and the Attorney General's office the authority to get a stakeholder group together through ADS and report back to us what that private right of action would and could look like.
So, who's it reporting back to? Maybe judiciary should be added.
That would be great. I'm looking at John.
Yeah, and I don't wanna complicate things or get you guys looking at paper when you will be listening or trying to vote this out quickly. I do
Maybe
have
you
a
should put
short,
yourself on record.
I do have a, John Gray, Office of Legislative Counsel. I do have this handout if you guys wanna pass it around, it just gives you like a back end.
Oh, the cliff notes on what.
Yeah,
they-
exactly.
Mhm.
Okay, so what's in it is quite different than the bill as it came over.
So I think the question, I think.
Some would say.
I think the question that you've been asking is along the lines of how enforcement is handled, and it's true that there are differences between what the House and the Senate have proposed to do. Enforcement, as you have received, is just through the AG's office, but the same sets of consumer rights apply in both versions. So this creates consumer rights to data privacy, requires certain obligations of businesses who are processing that data. I won't go into crazy detail, but basically, and then it allows enforcement through the AG's office rather than, and there are heightened protections in place for certain minor pieces and pieces related to consumer health data. And I'm happy to talk about those, but don't want to, yeah.
So committee, how much more detail, that there's no money, it seems like you try to be very, careful in terms of how you want to proceed next year.
We spend way too much time. on it.
Yeah, and, I don't know what the study or reports back to, but, it would be, I think if it's not there, we need to add judiciary because
Mhm.
private right of action is clearly
Yeah.
in that committee's jurisdiction.
I would
And
love to
that's the
speak that
purpose
to
of
you.
the study committee,
Right.
then absolutely.
Mhm.
Other comments about the bill?
I was wondering if you would entertain a motion.
I would,
So I would move that we put the bill on paper
with the,
with the addition of judiciary.
Senator Starr is seconding.
So, yeah, and so when we finish our work, we'll be put in touch with them.
To this bill? On healthcare?
Yeah.
Okay. So our clerk,
Just add
I
judiciary.
was wondering, that's what I was gonna ask, would you like us to add judiciary
Wow, sure.
into the bill? And then it's
That would be nice.
Yeah, we'll do that.
is that private right of action in your bill too?
Private right of action is in this bill.
No, I know.
Yeah, so,
No, but
yeah,
in your-
No,
no.
private right of action is
We've been
not. in the
talking
bill.
about it and whether or not to add it into the healthcare environment, and I've heard a lot more about not doing it and adding it into a study than I have.
Well, it sounds like
Yeah,
it's maybe right there.
So we'll add judiciary and we'll put ourselves in.
Okay, I'm just gonna make a second pitch to all for a study of this because Illinois is this year changing their private right of action on biometric data because it has put nursing homes out of business, it has put care facilities out of business.
We don't want to do that.
They are now looking at no more class action lawsuits, et cetera, so it's just a very expensive proposition. They've had 200
Oh.
cases and it's gone to the Supreme Court several times. And I think it's too much cost exposure to a lot of entities that we care about and we fund. So that's my plea
Well, I guess we agree. All right. So we have a motion that's been seconded.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean,
Jumps on the chair. a lot. He doesn't come here
Bruce
first.
didn't answer, but he got put down as a yes.
Yes,
I like your first.
Sears,
Punchy.
well, yes.
Star,
Wait till a year and if he doesn't like.
Wesley, yes, Kitchell,
yeah.
and reporter.
Who's the reporter? What does this fall under?
First lady, first. Happy to do.
All right, okay, thank you
Okay,
very much.
thank you so much.
The whole bill.
Right on. It's a good catch.
Now you can go next before I see what's happening.
I will.
So,
I'll let you know.
Our next bill is renewable energy.
Yeah.
And Chris Gray, is he coming in?
He's coming in if someone to begin with.
What?
I go get it.
Nice. Oh, okay.
Because our clerk is leaving in 10 minutes.
And
What would we do without a clerk? I'm leaving with the clerk. With the clerk?
I did something really
Yeah, I think-
dangerous today.
I
I
don't
left
wanna
my
be-
committee, I left the clerk in charge.
Road.
who's your clerk?
Martine.
Yeah, worried.
The packets.
Red mic.
Okay. Read all that next 5 minutes.
Big packet, get a whole packet.
Yeah,
We're,
no,
what we're doing is agreeing to a tax increase essentially of 150 million.
no, I'm not doing that.
Where were you?
The updated cost of implementing the bill over the 20, it's over that period of time,
10 years.
10 years.
I can't, how can you read that and then vote for it? I mean, if they didn't tell us, I might have voted for it. This is absurd.
So